want to thank everybody who's been with me, my Xbox clan.
When Kobe's going back to play Madison Square Garden, and he's like, hey, hook me up with dinner with Heath Ledger.
Like Russell Westbrook, that was a great feat the other day. I couldn't even tweet it out.
It's Coach Frank Vogel here, full of enthusiasm and positive energy.
Well, first of all, you don't smoke peyote.
And there was a couple games where I was at a hookah lounge. That's the truth. I wasn't smoking hookah, but I was there.
There was a time when the Israelites were wandering in the desert and all of a sudden bread came down from heaven. That's kind of what today feels like to have KCP join.
Welcome back to another episode of Bulls vs. Blazers free edition. This is our first free episode in a minute. Just apologize for the schedule there. I don't know if you've noticed, there's been a lot going on in the country, and that's kind of affected how we do things. But for our free listeners who aren't in the Patreon family, you can subscribe to the Patreon at patreon.com/BullsVBlazers. Become the family. Shout out to the family.
Shout out to the family. Shout out to our family, our Patreon family.
Otherwise, you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, anywhere else you can find podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, all of that. I'm Sean Highkin. With me, as always, Erik Gundersen. What's good?
Dude, the NBA basketball is back.
Yeah,
that's happening. That's what's good. Official as
many who tweet out the press release say.
Yeah,
officially official.
It's officially.
It's not just official; it's officially official.
Yes, now it's officially official. It's from the NBA letterhead and the NBPA letterhead, and yeah, it's official. The NBA is back on December 22nd. We don't know the schedule yet, but we assume that it's going to come out pretty soon. Then the league also agreed to some changes in the collective bargaining agreement, tying the amount that teams get taxed to how much, not, to the revenue drops. So if there's like a drop in revenue, there's not as much taxes because teams aren't making as much money. So you don't want to penalize them for putting a competitive team out there and spending money. And so basically that's what the NBA did to keep player salaries at least on the books as they are, and they also got some money out of escrow for the players that was held in escrow because of the bubble. So it's like everyone's kind of, the NBA is doing better than it was before the bubble, that's for sure.
But wait. How is the NBA doing better in the bubble when all the social justice protesting killed all the ratings and lost the league all their money?
Right, exactly. That's exactly what happened. The league is struggling, even though it's actually doing better than it was before.
It's all just because of the protests. If Trump had won, then the league would be doing better.
Yeah, I don't think the league would be giving players more of their money if the league wasn't doing better. So
here's a tweet that I want to read you about the thing you just said about the luxury tax being reduced for some teams. This is from Windhorst.
Mm-hmm.
This is a tweet from last night. He's quoting Bontemps reporting the new rules for the luxury tax. And Windy says, "This is possibly a significant victory for the Warriors, and rival teams are already upset. Again." So now the NBA is really back when teams are mad that the Warriors have some sort of competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm. God. It's the whole, I mean, it's just, they got lucky, man. They got lucky again. Obviously, they pushed for it, but the Warriors aren't the only team that's going to benefit from this luxury tax burden being lifted. It's basically every team that wants to try and win a championship, because all of those teams, for the most part, are at or near the luxury tax level. And so, and teams like the Lakers are going to be there this year because they're giving Anthony Davis a raise. They want to get, they might have to pay Kyle Kuzma, or, maybe they're going to do a trade and they absorb more salary. Like there's so many ways that this
Portland's
helps
still
every
tax, right?
Portland's out of the tax with Whiteside coming off the books. But they're not in it, but they will probably likely be if they're going to try and be good again. So it's like this helps Portland. This helps the Clippers.
This helps those teams, but this is actually a win for the players too, because the teams that are trying to win, at least, I mean, there are going to be some teams that'll just never go into the tax, but some teams that are so worried about going into the tax normally that they won't pay as much money for certain players, or they won't want to use their full mid-level exception. Some of those teams might be more open to using that now, and so that's going to mean some players are going to get bigger deals than they might have gotten, because I think you were going to be looking at a lot of guys getting like a minimum or like part of the mid-level exception. Maybe guys will get more money now. Like we might see somebody like and I've mentioned this before, but we might see somebody like Danilo Gallinari getting the full mid-level from like the Lakers or the Warriors for 1 year.
Yeah. We don't really know yet what it's all going to look like, how it's going to look in action, but the NBA is clearly doing things with the Players Association to try and make sure that the market of that the teams, basically, that the competitive product doesn't suffer as a result of the economic problems of the coronavirus, is what they're trying to do. Obviously, there's still going to be problems. There's going to be positive tests again. Not again. There's going to be positive tests like there were in baseball and there were in football, because everyone's going to be at home in home markets, and you can't. We're not going to be able to. There's not going to be a bubble where there's security everywhere and everyone has these monitors and everyone has and it's controlled by Disney. Like it's going to be more of a free for all, and so of course, like that's going to lead to probably some more positive coronavirus tests. They didn't announce anything about fans, thank God, and I just think they just need to eventually just come to the conclusion that probably can't have fans. Like,
I think that the Shams report, I think, was a trial balloon.
Yeah, I think people were like, "Yo, you can't do this." Like, just make it a TV product. The one thing is like, I mean, obviously this is only available to certain people, but like luxury suites that are far enough away from the players that you don't risk coming in contact, like that's kind of okay, but you don't want to pack those either. You're going to have to limit those to like 8 to 10 people max. And you're not going to be able, you have to space them out. Like you can't, because that's just a spreading event waiting to happen. So like, I think ultimately you just can't really have fans. You just have to have like the essential personnel to do the broadcast, and like I guess like have some kind of game ops, and then that's going to be, and then the media, some media or the media, whoever's covering it in those cities, and they'll have like limited availabilities, and like it'll be like all podium stuff or whatever, or all Zoom or
that stuff. From what I can tell you, that stuff is all still being talked about among the league office and the PBWA. Then nothing's been decided on that yet. I would say it's likely that they'll have in-person coverage of games, but we don't know about like what the specific level of access is going to be. I'm assuming that's all going to be figured out. I'm much more interested in how often they're going to test players, what the protocol is going to be if a player tests positive, how much wiggle room they're giving themselves in the schedule to postpone games. Because they're talking about scheduling these games in a way that reduces travel and makes it and so I think they're really not trying to put in all these back-to-back-to-backs like they did in the lockout season. They're trying to still keep the player workload stuff taken into account, but they're still trying to also thread this needle of getting the 72 game season done plus the playoffs, and get in and get out before the Olympics starts next summer, so that they can get back to the normal schedule and so they aren't competing with the Olympics for TV ratings. So it's just a whole lot of stuff that they have to juggle in addition to making the actual game schedule, which I think is going to be easier because like most of these arenas don't actually have concerts going on, or they don't have other things being scheduled. Maybe some of them have NHL teams that also play at those arenas, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot easier to schedule these games. So I'm really interested to see how that works out. But the next episode we're recording this on a Tuesday. We don't know the date yet, but we could be talking about our next episode already having moves to react to, because the draft is the 18th. Free agency now starts the 20th. They're going to lift the moratorium on trades and opt-ins and stuff at some point before the draft. Stein tweeted that it's somewhere around the 16th. Right now is November 10th. So less than a week, we might actually have trades and moves and stuff to talk about. And then we've got the draft and then free agency, and it's all just going to be kind of rapid. So it's going to get picked up pretty quickly in terms of just all this stuff going on. Right now, there's nothing going on. Now, suddenly, there's going to be everything going on for the next, hopefully, 7 or 8 months if there's no positive tests or if there's not a huge outbreak to derail things.
Yeah. Hopefully that's the case, and it's just like you get back to work and you just get back to they get back to some kind of at least a schedule wise normalcy. Obviously, it's not going to be all the way normal until the vaccine gets approved and everyone gets it, and all that. Whenever that, I know that they announced the other day the 90% effectiveness in the Pfizer vaccine, which is, sounds
that was good news.
That's good news. So
I had heard that they had been optimistically hoping for 55 or 60% efficacy
that's what
to
I've
get the
heard
approval
too.
from the FDA. And so if it's 90%, that's like measles vaccine level effective. So if they can, I mean, that all seems pretty promising. And now not to get too deep into COVID vaccine corner, Twitter
epidemiology corner from us.
Yeah, but the Moderna one is very similar in the technology that they're using and the method that they're using, and so it's pretty likely that if this Pfizer one is as effective as they say it is, the Moderna one is also going to get approved and it's going to be effective. And so now that would be then getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but this is 2 vaccines then that would be on the market that would be effective, and that means twice as many people will be able to get it. I'm worried about how they're going to be able to distribute it and how quickly they're going to be able to get that ramped up. Hopefully, now once we have a competent president and a competent administration in charge in January, we're going to be able to move a little bit quicker on that. But I don't know. I'm not trying. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves with all that stuff, but it seems like it's a good thing that there's actually a vaccine maybe on the horizon now.
Yeah, no, that was really great news. It was really, really, really great news. Hopefully they're able to roll it out, get it to vulnerable people, get it to healthcare workers, frontline workers, and that way they, take care of that. And then, slowly but surely, hopefully maybe we get a lot of people vaccinated, and maybe, by the end of next year, maybe things could be back to normal, or hopefully in the summer,
that was actually supposed to be part of the Pfizer trial.
Oh, that's right.
Because like when I heard that they were doing it through my health insurance provider, I emailed them and was like, hey, if you need volunteers, I might be interested. And they called me and they said that they were, that I might qualify. Mm-hmm. And so I went through a couple of rounds of screening interviews. And then once I told them that I work from home and I don't really go anywhere, they were just like, yeah, you're probably not a high enough risk to be exposed to it, and so we're gonna not. You probably aren't really gonna be very useful to the study, which I guess is good that I'm not high risk enough.
Yeah,
I would have liked to get the vaccine early, if it's especially now that we know it's this effective, just because people like me and you who are not healthcare workers or teachers or older people who are at risk are probably not going to be first in line to get it once it's out.
Yeah, well, and the first priority too is like people with kids want their kids back in school. So teachers are going to be, like you said, like one of the first people that's going to get it, and that as they should. But the NBA is happening, and I hope they lift the trade moratorium like this week. That'd be great. And then we can get some moves going. Because if I recall, the Anthony Davis trade was done like the week of the draft, or like right before the draft.
It was agreed to, but then they messed up the date of execution so that Rob Pelinka couldn't get the extra cap space, and then they had to go back and add in like an extra second round pick to get that to happen or something
like that. Yeah. But regardless, there's going to be things happening there. The Thunder still don't have a coach. Hire David Vanterpool challenge
still in effect.
Yeah, it's very much still in effect. Hire David Vanterpool, Oklahoma City. It is pretty insane at this point that we are now over a month now from the season, and less than a month from training camp, where the season actually starts for all NBA teams, like the players and coaches and the actual teams. They don't have a coach yet.
It's been a minute that they haven't had a coach too. Like,
yeah, it happened pretty early.
It's not like that they fired, they made a deep playoff run and then they let Billy Donovan go. They were eliminated in the first round, and then it was like a week after that they said that Billy Donovan wasn't going to be back. And so they've had a minute, and they've had all this time to talk to all these candidates. I would imagine they'll probably have some news soon. I can't imagine they're going to go into the draft without a coach.
No, they shouldn't, but they very well may. And like it's I don't know.
Because all these other coaches, like all these guys that they're talking to, whether it's Vanterpool or, some of these other assistants, these assistants are going to start having to get into, the mode of preparing for their current training camps. I don't know if any of these guys are really going to want to, teams are going to want to have their coaching staff set by the time camp starts and by the time free agency starts. So they don't want to have these teams a coach is suddenly hey, training camp starts. Oh, now I just took this job a week into training camp, and now I have to move to Oklahoma City in the middle of camp. I don't get to start camp. I would imagine that maybe they're going to have something to announce in the next week or so, but.
Yeah. I mean, and they lost Mo Cheeks too. Mo Cheeks is on the Bulls staff with Billy Donovan. So they don't even have And Mo Cheeks was like the assistant coach there for like forever. He was there with Scott
under
Brooks. He was there with Brooks, and then he was there back under Donovan after he was the coach for the Pistons for a year.
Well, he was briefly the head coach of the Thunder, like in Durant's second year.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes
Like,
sense.
they
But I think he likes
they-
being. I think he likes being an assistant more.
Well, he got the Detroit job in like 2013, and then he got fired halfway through his first season.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was the year when because he had Rasheed Wallace as an assistant coach.
Yeah, they also had Josh. That was the Josh Smith first year too.
Oh man, that was a rough one. When they went all lefties with Josh
Yeah.
Smith and Brandon Jennings and who else did they get? Oh, Greg Monroe. They just went all lefties. They're just like, we're just gonna have a whole team that's all left-handed.
Yeah,
Which I respect the gumption behind the move, even though it was an incredible failure. Gosh, I can't. I'm excited for the schedule, even though it's this. It's a schedule every year. But like, I am excited to see how they're going to do these series, basically, where they're going to basically have teams go to a certain city when they're on the road, and then just kind of knock out the games that they've got to play over a few days instead of so that way they minimize the travel. So I still think they're going to. Do you think there's still going to be like your traditional like play teams in each conference twice? Do you think that's still going to be a thing?
I don't know, because I think the league wants to, because I guess that. But although, you know what though, like I think if they're not going to have fans, that might not be an issue,
because like it's not like everyone's not like it's not like you're going to have your season ticket holders that are bummed that they don't get to see LeBron, because no one gets to see LeBron.
I guess maybe for the TV networks or for the local TV broadcast deals, they were like, "Hey, we need to have our LeBron game. We need to have our Warriors game." But
yeah, that's true. But
for
still.
safety reasons, like I just don't.
But it's just like you got to sacrifice, dude.
Yeah.
Like everyone has to sacrifice. Like LeBron is very vocally not excited about doing this, but he knows that everyone else sacrificed to go to the bubble, and he got a fourth championship ring out of it. And it's like,
oh, did you see Danny Green said he was joking? By the way,
no, he was not.
About LeBron being gone for the first month. Because he was joking the whole time.
Of course,
some podcast.
Of course, Danny Green is always joking, even when he's at the Holocaust Memorial.
He had to do it to him.
He had to do it to him one time. # Holocaust.
Hell yeah,
dude. One of the greatest posts of all time. But yeah, no, I mean, LeBron's clearly going to play. He's going to play in the opener. He's going to, like you said, we talked about this on the last Patreon pod, but for those that don't know, ring night has to be on TNT and Christmas Day has to be on ESPN and the ABC networks. So LeBron is going to probably most likely play on both of those nights. And then, how much he plays in those games, probably gonna, he's probably not going to be playing a ton of minutes, I would guess. I think he's going to play, but I wouldn't guess that he plays over like 30 minutes in any of those games, especially, after having this extra long season.
Yeah. It's going to be, he's going to play more minutes probably on the national games. Like,
yeah,
he might take off some. There's supposed to be 14 back-to-backs for each team this season. I'll bet LeBron doesn't play on any of those, at least in the first half of the season. Supposedly they're going to have a 2-week break that's quote-unquote the All-Star break, even though they're not going to have an All-Star game because it doesn't make sense to fly people into one city from a bunch of different places.
Yeah, it sounds like a super spreader event is what it sounds like. Well, that was like that like one of the they did like an investigation like way back when it first had the outbreak in like LA County, like they reported that like Kobe's funeral was like actually like a major super spreader event because of so many people flying in from all over the world and then flying back out. It was like right after All-Star weekend. It was like boom, boom. Like that was not a good, and like the
That's
super
interesting.
Yeah. Like people that was a thing I remember. And obviously, and also the Lakers celebration, they also said was a super spreader event because people were in the streets. I would not be surprised too if the election was not a super spreader event after the celebrations after Biden won. I mean, I hope not, but like people were wilding out in the streets, bro. Like people were wilding all over the country, like celebrating that shit. I mean,
Didn't they show that the Black Lives Matter protests this summer were actually not super spreader events because everybody was wearing masks? I felt like most of the footage I saw of people celebrating.
I mean that's one. That's one thing.
I
think people were getting. I think people were drinking a little bit. Like I think people were getting. This was different than the Black Lives Matter protests. Like this was an all-out like celebration / parade in a lot of cities, and people like taking off their masks to fucking yell. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know that people were really good in the Black Lives Matter protests, but people were acting different after on Saturday, dude. Like that was
acting different, and it could potentially be a problem.
Steam face emoji, steam face emoji, steam face emoji.
I did see that like Clay Travis tweeted like pictures of the celebrations after Trump got defeated, and then like the pictures of like the Notre Dame students.
Oh god, the Notre Dame students, that was so bad. Oh my god,
and being like, well, but like the media isn't scolding one of these groups, or they're scolding the like. That's gonna like.
Oh god, yeah. I'm just saying. I want everyone that was out at those celebrations to go get tested. Go get a coronavirus.
Did you
test.
Go anywhere? Because I didn't.
I was just at home. After the fact, I drank at home with Kelsey.
I was like, I'm not trying to go outside and get, as much as I want to be happy that like celebrating and like I understand people celebrating. I was very happy with the result of the election also, but like
I was happy, and I was at home. I didn't like go high five like people I don't know and shit, and like and like go yell out in the street. I just got drunk at home with my wife, and we watched the speeches at the that they gave. I was watching the Duck game because the Ducks were playing Stanford, which college football happening is very questionable, but I'm watching it anyway because the Ducks. But I'm very excited for the NBA to come back, but they clearly can't have fans. I think I'm so excited for what's going to happen. I'm already like trying to plot, we just did a mock draft with the USA Today sites for the Rookie Wire, where we're all picking based on the teams that we cover. I was picking for the Lakers for the LeBron Wire. And I think they clearly need a point guard because I think Rondo's going to get a raise from somebody. There's a lot of LaMelo Ball talk right now on in the media. It started with the Zach Lowe podcast, and then people just keep talking about it, where they had the Draft Express guys there, and they were basically saying that like Melo Ball is the number one prospect, but then they just name all these things that's like, well, he's never finished what he started, and blah blah blah. It just seems like it's such a weird draft because on the one level you have a bunch of guys that people say are like NBA ready prospects, and then you have LaMelo who could be the number one pick, and a lot of these guys that have studied this say he's by far the number one pick. Like him going to a situation in Minnesota, I think is like really interesting. I kind of want it to happen now.
I just remember being on the Zoom call with him after the combine back like a month ago or something, and he was asked if he had interviewed with the Timberwolves, and he was like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
it's definitely cool that the guy who might go number one didn't remember whether he'd interviewed with the number one team, that team that has the number one pick.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's fine. Like, he's not a great interview anyway. As someone who I've said this before on the pod, but as someone who watched at least 2 seasons of Ball in the Family on Facebook, which is the show, the reality, like it was produced by the same people that do Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's basically Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but for the Ball family. And LaMelo was always getting made fun of by the producers for being on his phone and not paying attention during interviews. And I think that's probably what was happening. Like, he probably was like on his phone, low-key, not paying attention. I think that's just the guy he is. And like, it's kind of a little scary because you would like your number one pick to be a little bit more involved, but he's also a kid. And the kids of this generation are all, they say it's always on their phones, whatever. But like, I do think that his talent is crazy. And I don't see why it couldn't work with him and D'Angelo Russell. I mean, obviously defense is the area that everyone points to, especially with Talons behind them. That's all. But, could they be a really good offensive team? Ideally they could be, because both Russell and Ball are great passers. And if Melo kind of can improve his jump shot in the way that Lonzo did this past season in New Orleans, for most of the season, Lonzo was shooting the ball much better. I think, he can improve that jump shot. I just don't, you can't teach some of the stuff that he does with passing the ball. And I think and his size and athleticism, like you just can't at 6'7" to be able to do those things. I mean, I watched him, back when he was playing in Lithuania a couple times. Like, I was always intrigued by the kid because I was interested in the Ball family thing. And like, he's great. I think he's good. It's just, there's a lot of red flags, but I think there's red flags about like basically every guy in this draft at this point.
Yeah, I haven't really paid attention to what the mock drafts are saying, what the rumors are saying, because I even in the best of years, I'm not really a draft guy. Like, I don't really know much about any of these prospects, and everything is just so uncertain now.
Mm-hmm.
With there's no consensus at the top in terms of there's no clearly this guy is going to be the number one pick. It's just a matter of who goes 2, 3, and 4. There's so much that we don't know. And even like the number one pick might be getting traded, might not be getting traded. The Warriors might be trading the number 2 pick. They might not be. Like, there's just so much stuff up in the air. There's so many different things. Like, last week the line was LaMelo is bombing these workouts, and he's falling rapidly in these, in the draft projections. And then it comes out that he actually hasn't worked out for anybody. So those reports were clearly just somebody putting that out. And now he's clearly the number one pick. So it's just, most years I don't really pay that much attention to stuff, but now especially it's like you can't really believe anything you read from any direction.
We're getting a full draft news cycle compressed into a week, basically, into 2 weeks, because I mean, everyone's known that the draft is going to be on November 18th, but now we see it, and we also see that it's going to be free agency. It's going to be the season and training camp starting soon, media day, like everything is all happening at once. And so I think everyone's getting really excited about it. And also people were getting really excited to, and, I think people were really excited to make trades. I think, people have had these rosters for over a year. We know how much we know how much changes now in an off season with how many guys are on shorter term contracts. And even though there's not a lot of, superstar level players, there's still a lot of really good players that could end up swinging the chase for the championship. It's going to be interesting to see how, I think Anthony Davis being young, and they said he was dealing with some injuries, but I think he'll bounce back. But I do think it's really interesting how the Lakers, being one of the older teams in the league, and then how they mostly, they react to this early season schedule, like, and how are they going to build their team to try and withstand what I think is going to be like a really, LeBron's not going to be doing a whole lot of like full on LeBron stuff for a minute because he needs to take a break.
It's going to be just this whole season, and we're going to see, after the draft, after free agency, there's going to be all these predictions about who's going to finish where, and it's going to be even harder to predict than the bubble because we just didn't know who was going to be in shape, who was going to have all their guys. It's going to be even harder this time. It's going to be even more unpredictable this time because we don't know how it's going to go over the course of a full season, if there's going to be an outbreak on any teams, who's going to come in shape, which of these rookies are going to be able to contribute right away. Like, I have, even more so than last season, I have no clue what's going to happen this year. If I had to guess, I think it's probably going to be like the Lakers and the Warriors are the two favorites in the West, but like, I don't know. Like, even like the Warriors guys, like Steph and Clay haven't played in like a year. Like,
right. Well, I mean, and listen, they're going to be well rested. That's great, but they also don't have Iguodala, who is a key part of their team and a key part to all those championships that they had. I mean, forget just Kevin Durant. I mean, before they got KD, it was Iguodala. They're trying to count on Andrew Wiggins to be a Harrison Barnes type of player if they don't trade him. And like, then there's this whole thing. Are they going to trade two and Wiggins? Like, it's really, and I don't think Steph and Draymond went to training camp either. They had like a team training camp and Steph and Draymond didn't go. And I think, and so that's kind of something that I'm looking at. Like, I don't know if that causes any problems for them. Like, even those teams that I think like, and then Brooklyn is the other team that I think, people are expecting to kind of, I think are going to come out, hit the ground running with KD and with KD back. Like, I think they're going to be a ready to go early on. Plus they were eliminated super early. But then you look at teams like Philadelphia with Ben Simmons, who had that injury, like he's still recovering. You know what I mean? Like he might not be ready to play yet. And that kind of hurts Philly. Like there's so many factors here that are kind of getting in the way. It's kind of funny. I think Miami is actually going to, if Dragic can be okay, like I think Miami is in great shape to start the season again. Cause you just know that those guys never stop actually playing.
Yeah. Jimmy's been, we've seen these pictures of Jimmy like on a yacht, was still shooting hoops. Like Jimmy would start the season tomorrow if he could.
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy's always on. I think they're ready to go. Like I'm sure the Heat will be fine. I think, the Celtics, it's the best thing for them that all their best players are super young, with Tatum and Brown, and also pretty much none of them got hurt. I mean, Kemba was dealing with the thing, but it seems like he was doing better at the end of the bubble than he was, before the season went on hiatus when he really was having knee trouble. I'm trying to think of some of the other teams that, I think the Clippers, I think they've had enough time off. Obviously Kawhi loves his rest, but, I think for the most part, they should be ready to get back to it, because I think also them being home, that was one of the things that even Jared Dudley said that on the Bill Simmons podcast, like the Clippers didn't really like being in the bubble. And obviously we knew that Lou Will didn't want to be in the bubble because he went to, he needed to get some wings and some cocktails in Magic City, and he couldn't do that in the bubble. And I think that, there was a lot of factors there, and it's like maybe the Clippers come back and they just have a great start to the season because they don't have to, live in the bubble anymore. And that could be a huge boost for them. So there's so many different ways how this could work out, either in favor or against a lot of these teams. And I think it's really going to be interesting. You have New Orleans, who completely flamed out with Zion, and they fired their coach. Now they have Stan Van Gundy. They also have kind of a big offseason. Drew Holiday probably going to get traded. Like, where is he going to go? Where's Oladipo going to go? I think Karis LeVert, everyone's like looking at him. He's probably like, as he's going to get traded, like there's
Chris
so many.
Paul's going to get traded somewhere.
Yeah. Chris Paul's going to get traded. Like, what does Milwaukee do to try and keep, and does Milwaukee sign, does Giannis sign the Supermax? Like, what if that happens? Like, that would be like a stunner. And that would be the biggest news for like 5 years in the NBA.
And that would just change up everybody's, because if you look around the league, the Raptors and the Heat are the two teams we basically know explicitly have been trying to prepare for Giannis.
And there's there's Dallas rumors as well.
Yeah, Dallas. Zach Lowe said something interesting on his podcast yesterday that I listened to that podcast. I didn't catch it in real time, but somebody aggregated it, so I went back and listened to it. Apparently, so the Warriors are looking to trade that number 2 pick. One player that apparently they're interested in, and I have no idea what San Antonio level of interest is with this, but LaMarcus Aldridge.
I saw that for the Warriors.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and Steph had an interesting comment the other day that he thinks that the Warriors need more size, and you look at what the Lakers were able to do with Anthony Davis and LeBron James and or another big man in there as well. And honestly, their whole team was massive. I mean, that was one of the things, especially after they lost Avery Bradley. I mean, Rondo was the smallest guy on the court, and he wasn't that small. I mean, like, you had Caruso, who's 6'5", super, very good athlete. Danny Green, KCP, all 6'5" above, like, all pretty long. You had you had Markieff out there. They really had a lot of size at every position. It became overwhelming for teams a lot of the times. And the Warriors obviously changed the league in terms of the way they played with pace, the way they shot the three, and the way they did small ball. But like, Draymond isn't going to be able to last. Draymond alone can't be the only line of defense against AD and LeBron. They need more size. And I'm interested to see where they go. Obviously, there's also Marcus would be the best player I think that they could get for that because they need him and he's a veteran and they don't have to like and he shoots threes now. So it's not like a big thing where you got to teach him how to play without the post ups all the time. Like I think it's a cleaner fit than I think people give it credit for, because he obviously, and he could carry the offense for the second unit when Steph needs a break. And because I think it's kind of underrated. I think that people rarely talk about this, but like Steph can't, everyone talks about him having like a James Harden workload. I just don't think he can actually like do that for a full season. You know what I mean? Like he can do it in the playoffs. You want to save that for the postseason, but like you don't want to burn Steph out early. And I think having a guy like LaMarcus to just post up and soak up some possessions and score, you know, it would be a huge boost for them, especially if they're trying to beat the Lakers.
Have we heard anything about LaMarcus's shoulder surgery that he missed the bubble for?
I mean, I think the fact that we haven't heard anything is probably a good sign. I think he's doing fine. I mean, he's had shoulder.
Do we feel better about that or Blake? It's roughly the same money. It's roughly, you know, the similar, you know, Blake had the knee surgery. He's supposedly doing well.
Yeah, I just think you could count on LaMarcus to show up and be like availability. Shout out to Ben Golliver. Availability is the best ability, and availability is the best ability. And LaMarcus, for the majority of his career, is available. He plays. He's there. He's in the game, and he's a great defender. Even though I think he's lost a little bit of a step. I think he'd still be fine against. I think he can still hold his own against guys like Anthony Davis, and nobody's a good matchup against Anthony Davis. But like LaMarcus is at least smart enough and long enough that he could probably give him a little bit of a problem, and also just do a good job of rebounding and not letting him destroy on the offensive boards like he did on a lot of teams. I mean, his jumper was amazing, but like I was really impressed by just how often he would just get like 5, 6, 7 offensive boards in a single game. Like the fact that he was able to do that, like you need someone to combat that. And again, I don't think Draymond by himself, the Warriors already weren't a good rebounding team when they were great. And then now they have to be better. And so like getting someone like LaMarcus, I think is a much surer bet than drafting James Wiseman.
I am so interested in not just the Warriors, but just there's so many teams that are like, there's going to be some kind of wild moves that, again, because of just how compressed it is, we're just not going to have time to catch our breath. We're going to look up and be like, wait, why is Chris Paul on the Sixers? And why is LaMarcus Aldridge on the Warriors? And it's going to all happen within like a day of each other. It's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited. I hope Portland gets involved somehow. I would love for them to get an improvement at the wing spot, at the small forward, to get a younger, more athletic guy there.
I floated CJ for Drew, and I kind of still like that.
I don't think that gets them. I just think it's just I don't know. I don't like. I know that Drew is an amazing defender, and he can guard up a position. But like, I would really like someone that is like a true like 3-4 wing. I mean, obviously there's the cheap way that they address that, which is going after trying to bring back Mo Harkless and trying to maybe bring back Evan Turner on a minimum deal. You know, I don't think Harkless is going to be commanding a ton of money. I think he could be had for like, you know, a pretty cheap contract. You could bring those guys back because they did help you when they were here.
They're probably going to bring Ariza's deal back, right?
Yeah, I mean, they might. I mean, I know that Dame liked him. We obviously know that, and he is a nice piece, and he's a vet, and is a guy that can guard LeBron, and he's a guy that already knows the system and played really well. So I think, and also, I think it maybe plays in his favor that he. But the other thing too, though, is that what if they sent him to Phoenix? What if they did the Kelly Oubre, Trevor Ariza Part 2 trade?
Which Brooks is going to be involved? Marshawn or Dylan or Aaron? Are they going to bring Aaron out of retirement just to be in that trade?
Yeah. Aaron, I don't think was retired, or has he retired?
He hasn't been in the league for like 3 or 4 years.
No, he was playing with LaMelo Ball last year.
Oh, was he? I didn't even know.
Yeah, he played with LaMelo Ball in the Australian League.
I actually covered Aaron for a couple of years in Chicago. He's a good dude.
Yeah, we love
Duck legend, obviously.
Yeah, Oregon legend. Shout out to Aaron Brooks. But yeah, I do think I would like that trade. I think Portland would get younger. They would have more playmaking at the 3/4 position. Obviously, Oubre can guard multiple positions. He does not lack in confidence, and I think it would just bolster your depth. I think it would be a cool play. I would like that move a lot, but bringing back Ariza is also like a really easy way to just bring him back, and maybe when you pick up his option, maybe there's an understanding that, hey, like you come back to the next season at a much smaller number or whatever. But 12 million is a lot for Trevor Ariza in this. You know what I mean? Like even on a 1-year deal, I feel like 12 million is a lot for Trevor Ariza. But at the same time, Trevor Ariza is better than, all of the wings that they could be bringing back, whether it's Turner or Harkless or guys like that. It might be better just to keep him and not make any moves. But, I would like for them to try. But knowing Olshey, they're probably just going to bring Ariza back and not make any big moves.
I can already see Neil's press conference where he's talking about how they had injuries. And, if Trevor hadn't opted out, we would have had a great shot at beating the Lakers. We did win the first game of the series, and we were leading in several of the other games. We really had a good shot at it. It was just, we had injuries. We had things that, obviously, like I could just already see it.
Yeah. I definitely think it's there. Like, we believe in our core. We believe in Zach, because the core four, quote unquote, was like Dame, CJ, Nurk, and Zach Collins. And it's very clear to me that like Zach Collins, while, a good defender, fouls way too much and doesn't do enough on offense as a 7-footer around the rim. And he doesn't really shoot the three well to make me be like, yeah, definitely a core piece for the future. Like,
you don't think Neil already has Anthony Simons in there yet?
Oh God. Yeah. That's another guy. I mean, honestly, if I were Portland, which, I'm not, but if I were them, I would be trying to see what I could get for Collins, Simons, and number 16, because you have enough, they have enough young players, and they could get some young players via 2nd-round picks, but like, they need guys that can help Dame now. And it's like, Dame's 30. Like, it's here now. Like, this is it. Like, go all in for once. And like,
Erik, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you've realized this. I don't know if anybody's ever pointed this out to you before, but it's really hard to get free agents to come to Portland.
Which is why you should make a trade for some vets involving your draft picks. That Collins is eligible for an extension. I mean, again, this is actually probably going to happen.
One.
I wouldn't give him one either, but would you bet against it happening knowing the Blazers?
I think Gary Trent is more likely to get an extension.
Gary Trent should. Yeah. And the other thing about Gary Trent too is that he can sign one whenever he wants. He's in a situation kind of like Dylan Brooks. Like, there's no deadline for before the season for
Dylan Brooks got one already, right?
Right, but he got one mid-season.
Yeah.
So, because he was a 2nd-rounder. And so, like, that's the same thing that they can do with Gary Trent, where, like, they can just be like, but they don't have, like, with Collins, like, that's going to be one of those decisions that they're going to have to make before the season starts in this compressed time period between the draft and training camp, or the draft and the start of the season. Basically, they're going to have like 6 weeks or 5 weeks really to decide whether they're going to, all those guys that are 1st-round picks from the 2017 draft class are all going to be eligible to sign extensions, but they have a deadline for it. Whereas there's no such deadline for 2nd-round picks because it's, there's no restrictions on that stuff. There's more like free for all action. So like, yeah, I mean, they could sign theoretically. I mean, they could also sign it before. They could sign Trent to an extension before the draft.
They could. I mean, as soon as the moratorium period is lifted.
Yeah, they really could. They probably will. I mean, I think that should be first order of business. And like,
I think that was the message he sent when he signed with Clutch, was just don't mess around with this.
Yeah, like, pay me my money. Like, you guys got me for really cheap last year, and I helped you get into the playoffs, and I'm gonna probably be better. And like, just pay me now. I think they absolutely should pay him.
There's some max extension that 2nd-round picks can get that's like 4 years, 37 or whatever Dylan Brooks got. That they should just give him that.
Yeah,
that's gonna end up. He's gonna end up outperforming that probably.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They absolutely have to do that. 4 years, 37, whatever. Give him Dylan Brooks money. Like,
yeah,
he has earned it. Like you got to give Gary Trent the Dylan Brooks money. I think that's first order of business. 2nd order of business, like, try to make your team better. Maybe see what you can do in the draft. Obviously teams are going to be looking to move guys, But, I do think there's a lot of like, they can do some things to improve their team. So, and I think the Gary Trent extension would be a great start, to have him, and, hopefully you can maybe bring Carmelo back. I know we're kind of souring on that maybe being a possibility because, it sounds a little doubtful, but at the same time, I was thinking about what he said on the JJ Redick podcast about it really bothers Melo that there's this, image out there about him, about Houston, that he wouldn't come off the bench when he was coming off the bench. And if he came back to Portland where it's like he has a very, like they let him be Melo and get his touches and like maybe he doesn't start, but if they just let him be Melo for 20 to 25 minutes a game, like I think he'd be happy to stay here knowing that this place kind of revived his career. He really loves playing with Dame, that he plays in the clutch all the time. Like,
he moved Lala and their son out here during the pandemic.
Yeah, like I think he does dig it out here a little bit. And like, I mean, obviously the New York thing is there, but I do think that it does bother him a little. I think it's something that really stood out to me when I was thinking about it today, is that it really does bother him that there's that perception out there that he wouldn't sacrifice a starting role to try and win a championship. And I think we saw it with Dwight Howard with the Lakers. Like, at some point, guys reach that point where they just want to be part of something big, and like they want to have, but they want to have a role. And I think Melo is going to have a role here. The only other thing that I think really is more realistic than the Knicks is the Lakers. If they trade Kuzma, that's like come home to LeBron move to me.
If he was going to go to the Lakers, he would have already gone to the Lakers.
Okay, fair enough. He did turn it down once already. Because they tried to go after him in the year that LeBron hurt his groin, and he was like, I'm good.
I think it's going to be New York. If it's not Portland, it's going to be New York. That's my guess.
I don't see it, dude. Like, they're not going to be good. Melo has, I know it's his old agent. I know it's a different situation.
He'd start there, right?
Huh? He would start there probably. And maybe that matters. But like, what if he wants to like be a part of a team that has like bigger aspirations than just making the playoffs?
Everything he's said would indicate that he wants to stay in Portland. It's just a matter of,
will Portland offer him a deal?
Well, what kind of deal do you think he's going to get? Because I still don't know if he's going to get more than a minimum.
I don't think he is either. I think he's in the place where he gets a minimum deal, and like, because I unless like New York gives him a bag, which they might, to just be like a Vince Carter type role. But it also is like, how does Melo want to be remembered? Like, how does he want to go out? Like does he want to go out playing, having Madison Square Garden be packed and playing regular season games and probably not making the playoffs? Or does he want to go out playing against LeBron in the West and playing against the Warriors and playing against, really great teams and actually testing himself as an all-time great? You know what I mean? Like, I think it's, before money was clearly the driving factor, I do think there's a little bit of like legacy stuff maybe in Melo's mind now. You know what I mean? And I think he wants to be part of a winner, and I think it matters to him more now. That's a read that I have. I think it really bothers him that the perception was that he didn't really care that much about winning, that he wouldn't sacrifice with the Rockets.
As a local media member, I would certainly love to have him back. He was great.
Yes, I would too. I understand. Jason Quick in the market has the most skepticism that he doesn't think he's going to be there, but like, and his main sticking point is that he doesn't think Melo's going to accept that he's a role player. But it's like, I think Melo has made it pretty clear with his public comments that he's willing to sacrifice role minutes, shots to be a part of a really good winning team. And, I think he would. And I think, we obviously know Dame would want him back. And it's like, if Olshey has any, now that, Paul Allen and Jody Allen's there, but like Olshey's got to keep Dame happy, number one. And like, if Dame wants Carmelo back and Olshey doesn't do it for the minimum, like, I know that Dame is usually a good soldier, puts his head down and just goes to work about it, but like, that's going to piss him off.
You do have to remember, though, it's very hard to get free agents to sign in Portland.
Yeah, that would also be a real pisser as well. Is like, can you imagine bitching for however long, like 5 years that Olshey has bitched, ever since LaMarcus Aldridge left, that Olshey has bitched about Portland not being an attractive market to free agents, and then you get one of the top scorers in NBA history to come on your team. He revives his career. He actually plays well, and he wants to stay, and you tell him to kick rocks. Like, it would just be such talking out of both sides of your mouth. And it's like, obviously GMs do that all the time. It's Olshey especially, but like, it would just be a new level of whack on his part, to be honest. So
how mad is Neil that Daryl Morey got the Sixers job?
Oh, Neil wanted it bad. Of course he did. He's wanted to leave Portland for such a long time. He bitches about Portland being a market that's not working for him all the time. Yeah, he definitely wanted it because he put his name out there for a reason. Like, there's no, or his agent did. You know what I mean? Like, shout out to Warren,
the Don.
Shout out to Warren LeGarry, the Don. But like, it was out there, and so it's like it's just. I don't know. I really think that Portland should bring back Melo. I think they should extend Gary Trent. I think it's a good idea. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with them. I think the Lakers are going to be really fascinating who they go after. I think the Warriors are also going to be really fascinating who they sign. I know that Jeremy Lin has been back in the United States working a lot in the Bay Area. He was working out with some Warriors guys I just saw recently today. So, and he's a hometown kid from Palo Alto, I believe. So, it's funny, actually, when they were in high school, Jeremy Lin was a higher rated prospect than Dame. Is a funny story. Like, I remember Dame talking about that when he was like early in his NBA career. But Jeremy Lin, might be like a backup point guard for the Warriors, and he might be back in the NBA. And like, I think there's a lot of interesting moves to be had. Like,
could be an option for the Lakers too.
Could be an option for the Lakers. Yeah, I think the Lakers clearly need point guard help. I don't know where it's going to come from, but they clearly need it. Just because I do think Rondo is going to be gone. The Clippers are apparently really interested in Rondo. That is something that Mark Stein reported last week, which is really interesting to me. And I could see Rondo doing it. He's a mercenary.
That's just the Clippers trying to get the Lakers to pay more to keep him.
That is, dude, third eye, folks. Third eye open.
We're all about the third eye.
We're all about
the third eye.
Yes.
Real quick, shout out to Tommy Heinsohn's family.
Oh, man. Shout out to Tommy Heinsohn's family.
R.I.P. Legend.
Shout out to Celtics fans everywhere.
Shout out to the Riffs, man.
Shout out to the Riffs, man. Shout out to Trey. This is so sad. I mean, Tommy Heinsohn, one of the true characters of the NBA and the NBA television broadcasting world, as anybody who can tell you who has had League Pass for the past, decade or so, watching Tommy Heinsohn on League Pass and was like a little, treat to watching Celtics games. I mean, even those few years when the Celtics were shitty, it would be fun to just like, I'm going to watch a Celtics game because Tommy Heinsohn's on the call. And he's just like this. He was just this cantankerous old man who loved basketball and loved the Celtics. And
these refs should be fired.
Yeah, exactly. And oh man, I loved when he was the little guy when the Isaiah Thomas
Tommy points.
Yeah, Tommy points. Oh man, it's so good. There's just so many great Walter McCarty. I mean, he loved Walt. Yeah. He loved Walter.
Our guy Curtis Harris, Pro Hoops History, has a thread about how prime Tommy Heinsohn was a bucket steam face emoji.
He was, though.
Yeah. And he also, I haven't read it yet. I have that new book out about the making of the salary cap, and there's a whole chapter in it about how instrumental Tommy Heinsohn was in getting the players union recognized by the league and how influential he was, along with Oscar Robertson and Bill Russell and some of these other guys in, the players' rights and that kind of stuff in the 60s. So just an all-around legend. I obviously he was way before our time, so we can't speak too much to how good he was as a player, except for the documentaries that we've seen or whatever. Right. But just an absolute icon, an absolute legend. I enjoyed his. I didn't watch a ton of Celtics broadcasts on League Pass just because I didn't watch a ton of any team over the other. But I found him entertaining. Like he is who he is in terms of like complaining about refs all the time.
Yeah.
And because he's Tommy Heinsohn, because he's an OG, it's like endearing instead of annoying.
Yeah, and like, okay, he had his time too as like he was a national broadcaster on CBS like in the 80s with Brent Musburger on those games, and like, you know, he's been in the game for such a long time, and he had to be a national, you know, guy somewhat but like in his older years he was just like the Celtics guy, and it was just like, it was just funny, like and he just had the biggest Boston accent you could imagine, and he would get so excited. Like you could tell that there was no place at all of those games that Tommy Heinsohn would rather be than at the Garden. Like he was in his element in those games, and I'm sad, dude. Like I got really sad. Like I'm not even a Celtics fan like that, but like I loved, as someone who has come to enjoy the whole league, I'll really miss like the fact that I'll never be able to hear Tommy Heinsohn on a Celtics broadcast makes me pretty sad.
Yeah, no more Tommy points.
No more Tommy points. No more bitching about the refs. No more Marcus Smart. Like it's just, oh, Smart. Oh, like just stuff like that. Like just so many great moments that he was. I'll miss him a lot. Yeah, I'm like, shout out to his family for real. Shout out to Celtics fans. I know this one hurts because he's been such a huge part of the Celtics, basically almost like, you know, basically since the 60s, you know, when he was a player. So, yeah, really sad moment, but, you know, celebrating the life of Tommy Heinsohn. Like, I'm definitely going to be trying to watch some of those, some compilations of his best calls and funniest calls. Yeah, man, Tommy Heinsohn was great. Do you have any great Tommy Heinsohn stories, moments?
Not except for just kind of watching him on TV over the years. I don't really have any. I never met the guy. Everybody says he was great. All my friends who are like Celtics media all say he was always great to talk to. So I'm not going to pretend I knew the guy better than I did, because I didn't. But you know, he's a legend. You know, you've got to pay our respects.
We absolutely do. So shout out to his family. Shout out to our family. Shout out to the NBA coming back. I mean, I know it's been a rough year for the basketball family. We've lost a lot of, you know, David Stern, Kobe Bryant, Tommy Heinsohn. I mean, John Thompson. I mean, so many important guys in the league.
Uncle Cliffy.
Oh God, Uncle Cliffy. That was sad. I mean, yeah, it's been a tough year, for basketball. But, I mean, the one, I guess, good thing about basketball, though, is it's going to come back around. We're going to be back soon. There's going to be, I can't believe training camp and media day is going to be here like in 3 weeks. That's pretty crazy. I'm excited for the draft. I'm starting to trying to get to know all the guys that might go. And R.I.P. to Tommy again. Even Adam Silver released a statement about Tommy Heinsohn today. So
I got the email.
Yeah, we got the email.
This is when somebody rises to the level of Adam Silver sending an email out about him. That's how you know they were major.
Mm-hmm. Factual. Very, very factual.
So we'll be back later this week with a Patreon episode. So if you're not a Patreon member, you should go sign up at patreon.com/BullsVBlazers. It's $3 a month. You get the good. You get. I would say our better episodes are generally the Patreon episodes. So.
Oh yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that we let fly on Patreon that we wouldn't let fly on the. We get intimate with our family, I think, is the best way to say it on the Patreon pod. So come join our family, and thank you for listening to this pod. Thank you for listening to be in our free family. So
family adjacent.
Our next of kin, or not our next of kin, but our kinfolk, like a second cousin.
Our family. Remember those Sprint commercials with Kevin Durant?
Oh my God, the family. Wow, that's a throwback. Shout out to Kevin Durant.
He used to be in some funny commercials. Doodle Jump.
I mean, I can't really remember any other good Kevin.
There was the one where like I don't even remember what it was for, but it was the one where it was like the kid had like, or like the dad had like body switched with Kevin Durant, and like the mom has like the really creepy like, mommy's got some things for daddy to do, and he's like changing a light bulb and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's I remember that one. That one was really creepy.
And then I also remember like around the time that one came out, Durant had a dunk in some game that was on TNT, and Reggie used that in his call.
Oh my god!
And it was just like, what are you doing, man?
Reggie's always horny though. Like
we're Reggie gang, we're pro Reggie, but like that was not the best call.
We're pro Reggie, and I mean Reggie definitely, and Corbs from the Quarantine Cast is definitely a big purveyor of this theory, but.
Corbs is a Patreon family member.
That's right. Yes, he did. He talked to me about my Money Manziel shirt that I had, and he's like, how could you think that he would not flame out? Like, and I was like, you're right, probably in hindsight I should.
That's a very Corbs take.
Yeah. It's very Corbs take. Very, very Corbs take. Oh, shout out to Alex Trebek's family.
Yeah.
Also very sad. Very, very sad. Yeah, but
did you see the graphic that somebody had that was like Alex Trebek moderating a Jeopardy with Kobe?
I did
Chadwick Boseman and Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, I did see that.
And their scores were their dates of death, and so Kobe was getting his ass kicked because his was 1-2-6-2-0, and
oh my god,
and the other two were like in the 8s and the 9s because they
died
in August and September.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, I think my wife posted it and Corbin commented it.
I thought that graphic was terrible, and then I saw what the scores were, and then I was like, okay, that's actually funny now.
It was funny though, but no, I mean, I thought it was. I mean, whatever, man. People are coping. People are sad. They lost Alex Trebek. Also, I know that for Lakers fans, Alex Trebek living in Los Angeles became a Lakers fan as well, and like that, the moment when he like congratulated Kobe for his whole career. Went viral, right after the news broke that he died. But yeah, no, obviously there's still some Jeopardy episodes, and the last episode that he recorded is going to air on Christmas Day. So
yeah, we'll see.
Welcome to Jeopardy Corner. Just became
Jeopardy Corner. I can't say I was like a huge Jeopardy watcher just because I didn't really watch that much TV growing up. But
yeah, we watch Jeopardy in my house. And Kelsey and I watch Jeopardy here, and so it's I mean I love it. It's just a good show. It's fun to stretch your brain, sometimes with those questions. Try to figure out the questions yourself. It's just a fun time. I like Jeopardy. It's not going to be the same. No matter who hosts it. I would not. I do not envy who has to follow in his footsteps, but very, very excited. We're going to be, gonna have another pod later in the week for our family. And hopefully we have more stuff to talk about. I hope they lift the moratorium and we get some action. Cause I'm ready for it. I think we're all ready for it. I think it's funny. Like there's a lot, it's the same feeling that I had after the bubble or right when going to the bubble. Like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of basketball, but like, damn, it's going to be fun. And I'm excited that basketball and all the news and all that stuff is going to be back soon. Cause it has been,
especially if we get to cover some games in person.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, that'd be a major plus for us. That'd be awesome. I would love to do that. But hey, whatever's safe, and able to have basketball, I'm down with that. I'm very, very excited. I'm so excited to have free agency, this player movement. Also, I'm hyped that free agency starts in the middle of the day. Like they're starting it at 6 p.m.
Well, they did it. They did that last year too.
That's right. They did do that last year.
And then like immediately, 20 deals were done within the first like 10 minutes.
Well, the Kevin Durant thing was done 2 hours before the moratorium was lifted. Like KD announced it on Instagram, like 2 hours before the actual start of free agency. Like he had the graphic with the written graphic with the Brooklyn jersey and whatever. Like it was already done. And like
that was number 35, and then like a week later, he announced that he was changing his number to 7 for whatever reason.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, fine. New start, fresh start. I get it.
Even though his production company is named 35 Ventures.
Whatever, dude. He's all he's won 2 championships, number 35. He's won an MVP with number 35. It's not like it. It's also maybe it's like it's just kind of also what Kobe did. Like Kobe just like decided I'm gonna change my number. Like people do it. I think LeBron might change his number. Like, I've been trying to find out if he's for really gonna do it and go to number 6 officially, but like that was the plan before last season.
Going to.
You don't think he's going to?
Honestly, it would be whack if he did though.
If he went to 6 and Anthony Davis took 23,
that would be whack.
I mean, it was part of the deal allegedly.
I know it was, but it would be whack. I wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, he might though. I mean,
he might.
I
could see it. I wouldn't like it.
Yeah, no, I know.
What do you think of the Sixers jerseys?
Oh, they're all bad. They're
terrible.
They're all bad. They're so bad.
I just don't know what I haven't read the Zach Lowe piece yet, but I don't know. I saw those and they look like the Clippers jerseys.
Yes, they do. They very much do look like the Clippers jerseys. And then they also have this other like Blue Lives Matter ass jersey. Yeah, well, I guess it was a they first proposed a Blue Lives Matter jersey, and then Simmons at least pushed back and was like, "We need some red on there." So I guess the story is that Simmons kind of saved the jersey from being the thin blue line jersey that was just all black and blue.
Well, now they're never going to be able to trade for James Harden
because obviously he backs the blue. I honestly don't think James Harden.
Oh no, there's no
way James Harden knew what he was doing. No, he probably honestly did just think it was a cool design, and he was probably just like, "Yeah, that sounds cool. Like that looks cool. I'll wear it." You know what I mean? Like I don't think he thought about it for a second that it was a pro police, anti black people thing. So yeah. Shout out to our family. Shout out to you for listening and making it this far. Shout out to Tommy Heinsohn.
Yeah, we'll be back later this week with a Patreon episode. Peace.